All right, we're back, and we will have new intros soon. We recorded new intros with Corey. I still have to sit down and produce them because I have not had time, as I was, my accident. We talked about my my hit and run thing. Been dealing with all that stuff, and then I had to moderate some events at Kolkoa, which you never want me to talk about. And
what did you do at Kolkoa?
I moderated the panel with the delegation of filmmakers.
What?
There's the meet the delegation, the people who are in town for the the directors and actors and all of that, and that was very nice. And then I also moderated a Q&A with Jean-Paul Rapneau, who just directed his first film in like 10 years or something, whatever it was, since Bon Voyage. Anyway, he's only made 8 films in 51 years. But they're all great, and they showed his very first film, with Catherine Deneuve and Philippe Noiret, and it's absolutely fantastic. It's a wonderful comedy, and we had a great Q&A. He was lovely, fantastic. Anyway,
okay, so you'd rather talk about that and not talk about
really.
How I went to go see Bruce Springsteen at Barclays Center the other night.
I'm assuming it was not in North Carolina.
It was not.
Okay.
Otherwise, I couldn't have gone to the bathroom.
Yeah, exactly. And so you went and saw Springsteen.
Yes.
And did you have a nice Passover weekend? You did the whole New York spiel.
I did the first and second night of Passover with my favorite Passover prayer.
Yeah.
It's called "Skip a Little, Skip a Little." When you got to read when you read the books, the Haggadah, which retells the story of Passover. That's part of the ceremony, the tradition of Passover, which is that the entire table is bored out of their wits reading the story.
Yeah.
Our favorite prayer is "Skip a little," hoping we get to the damn food.
So
we did that, and then I actually had extended my trip for a day because it was the only day that the Mets were playing in town. So I go on StubHub and I try to find a ticket. How much money can I afford on a ticket to see the Mets? So I'm on StubHub,
right,
looking to see what Met tickets are available, Met seats, rummaging around. And StubHub also tells you stuff that's going on about town other than what you're looking for. And they happen to mention a little act named Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band playing at the Barclays Center. And I said, OMG.
Yeah.
WTF. SOS. BFD. I said them all.
Yeah.
I said, I now have new plans.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to go see Springsteen, and I paid an F load of money.
Did you?
But
it was worth it.
Worth every penny.
Yeah.
Basically front row, but about 25 yards off the side.
Yeah.
It was the first concert I had ever gone to where the musicians were actual full-sized people and not dots, because I can only afford dots.
Yeah.
This time, because I said, screw it, I decided to afford real people.
Nice.
So I got real people. He played for over 3.5 hours, nonstop. There's 3.5 hours without an intermission.
Sure.
He just goes. 36 songs. One of the songs he played will segue into our next topic, because one of the songs he played was Purple Rain, which he played obviously as a tribute to Prince, who died last week.
That was just of all the crazy celebrity and high profile deaths that 2016 has given us, and they just keep coming day after day, and we're all losing track of them, but that's the one that just hit, I think, everybody like a bombshell. I mean, suddenly every single station on the radio was playing Prince tributes, and everyone who was giving a concert anywhere suddenly was playing.
Dave Gilmour just did something.
Oh yeah, I mean everybody. They're all doing their versions of Purple Rain, and it's just it's the one we didn't expect, because Prince is not that guy.
Well, he's also a very secretive man.
He's very secretive, but look, I mean, at least for the last 10 years, deeply religious, vegan, health-oriented, all this kind of stuff. I mean,
here's the thing with Prince. I have two things to say on that. One is that he was on painkillers for his hip.
Yes.
That definitely. But also
the splits. Wouldn't that be, I mean, whether directly or indirectly, the splits on stage conceivably could have been what wound up killing him.
True. We don't know. And then, but here's the thing: there's also darker forces possibly at work. Sure. The rumor is he had the high five.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
HIV. He had the high five.
Oh, the high five. Yeah.
Get
Well,
HIV, high five.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Rumor is he might have had the high five.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is that what's interesting about Prince is that he's this guy who seems so pure in terms of like what he puts into his body and just his artistic output. But my sense is that I don't really know. No one really knows how pure he was. I'm not saying he was a heroin addict.
Have you heard have you watched the Kevin Smith thing about? Kevin Smith has a whole half hour. It's hysterical.
It's fantastic.
About the time where Prince basically recruits him to make a documentary. He has no clue how to make, and he does it all without pay. And then it turns out to be this like Prince will come in and he'll just start sermonizing to these focus groups and preaching to them and testifying to them. I mean, it's hysterical.
And Prince doesn't thank him at the end when it all falls apart. Kevin Smith is like, and you should look this up on YouTube. Kevin Smith is like, look, man, I'm all about gratitude. Just say. Thank you. Sorry it didn't work out. It's all good. Thank you. Didn't even say thank you.
Yeah, well.
He's just a weird guy. Anyway, my fear is that if it turns out that he was a pill popper, or he died from cocaine overdose, or he had HIV, it is going to taint his legacy because we have this concept of him as being this pure artistic being.
I don't think it will. Well, whatever comes will come. But I mean, the thing is, the guy was, say what you will, he was a musical genius. I mean,
absolutely.
A prodigy, a child prodigy, an extraordinary talent who. You listen to his music. I mean, he fused genres that nobody else would ever have thought to fuse. I mean, there's R&B and hip hop and rock and pop and everything else just kind of all jammed in there. I mean, it really amazing. It's just amazing stuff. And Purple Rain. I was a lowly assistant manager at a theater in Westwood when that opened, and it was the exclusive. That was the platform release, and we had that thing with packed houses for week after week after week. And I kid you not, I must have heard or seen that entire film at least 200 times.
And by the way, it's back in theaters now. AMC has been showing it, and by the way, AMC, as we record this, AMC is going to expand it into more than 200 theaters this weekend. You know who's
elated about that more than anyone else probably? Albert Magnoli. Because his career.
What has that guy done since Purple Rain?
You know what he's done? He's done like some kickboxing movies. That's what happened. I mean, he did a Jeff Speakman movie, I think, a few years later, and I remember being really elated. I was like, "Sweet, Jeff Speakman," because I was big and keen on Jeff Speakman at the time. But Magnoli's career went nowhere. It really went nowhere. And he came from, he was a USC grad. He graduated like a year or two after James Foley. They came out of the same. They were kind of classmates together. They overlapped over at USC. And Foley's career, is kind of on track again, and maybe Magnoli is kind of hoping, this will, remind people that he's out there as well.
If I were him, I would make myself very available for interviews.
You better believe it, man. Go for it. Magnoli had a cool style. He just didn't, he was overshadowed by the Prince factor. That's basically what it was. That was Prince's movie, and Prince went on to direct a couple of movies, which is still strange.
That is still strange.
Yeah.
No, still the strangest person ever to direct a movie. I'm still going to say it, Joan Rivers.
John Mellencamp.
Yeah, I guess that's weird too. But Joan Rivers.
Well,
By the way, before we talk about,
we have a Vox box. Yes, we do. Not yet. We have a Vox box. We got some listener mail. We got what else we got?
I, by the way, have not seen Civil War yet. I'm going to see it in a few days.
Yeah.
Now, some of our friends have seen it.
Yes.
Right.
They all love it.
Tim saw it.
Everyone loves it.
Tim saw it, loved it. Everyone loves it. Seems to be a total winner.
Yeah.
And which we're glad because it'll put Warner Brothers to shame because Warner Brothers, they've got to be sitting in their boardrooms going, what did we do wrong?
You know what? Friend of mine, I was at a luncheon thing the other day, and a friend of ours was there with his son, who is almost 8 years old, and he pulls me aside and he goes, "Oh, dude, Batman and Superman." I said, I haven't seen it. Because, this is what everyone does to me, right? Everyone who's not in the business, whenever they see me, the first thing they have to do is pull me aside and ask me what I thought of a movie. It like, this is all I'm good for, right? I'm good for opinions about movies. And he goes to me, "It's Batman and Superman." I haven't seen it. He goes, "Worst movie I have ever seen." And you could tell he was just angry about it. Like he had to vent to somebody. And then his son, who is 7, looks up at me and he goes, "So boring." And right then and there, I was like, "That's it." A dad takes his 7-year-old son to go see Batman and Superman, and they both hate it.
There's hope for the world.
Okay, how can Warner Brothers not have known that they were just. I mean, that's their target demo. How could they miss that so badly?
Because
how do you miss that so badly?
You know what? I think that Marvel forced their hand because they have to go so far afield from what Marvel does, right? That they want to be able to stake their own creative ground. And since Marvel is fun and colorful and poppy and joyous.
They are playing catch up right now in the worst way possible.
Okay, domestic total, as of this recording, domestic total, $320 million, which when you add foreign, which is $534 million, you get a worldwide gross so far of $854 million. Now, obviously, that's not chump change, but Warner Brothers wants this thing to make $1 billion. $1 billion worldwide is considered the line above which it is a worldwide super smash hit to live forever.
Yeah, not going to happen.
And it's not going to make it.
No, not going to happen.
You know, I just think that right now they're stuck. They can't reverse course because then they'll just be accused of reversing course and doing what Marvel does. Mm-hmm. They can't reverse course. They can only really double down on what they've done. They can't. How are they going to change their films now?
You know what? Well, they can start by getting rid of Zack Snyder because he is.
Just have Christopher Nolan do it.
Yeah, well, seriously, Zack Snyder's entire narrative approach is the problem right now. I mean, and they also need to get rid of what's his name, David Goyer.
That's right, David S. Goyer.
They need to get rid of Goyer.
But he's Warner. This guy has either literally written or co-written every modern Warner Brothers superhero film.
And you know what? He's done. I mean, I appreciate what he did on Blade, which was not, that's a Marvel character, but. It's time to sort of let Goyer go, let Nolan go, let Snyder go. They need to find someone else to godfather this thing. They do. They need somebody else who can sort of pick up the pieces that are left right now, which they're stuck with, and who can engineer it in a new direction.
Because they've given it to they've put the whole thing in the hands of a visualist as opposed to Kevin Feige.
Yeah.
The Marvel guy. It's a Feige, right. Yeah. The Marvel overseer, that guy, he makes you stick to character.
He does.
You cannot do things with those characters that are not in the canon.
I'll give him credit. Even with Ben Affleck, who I wouldn't have cast as Batman, but look, their casting choices are not terrible. The Wonder Woman lady, she's fine. Flash guy, no, not into that. I think that's a bad choice. But the Aquaman dude, fine.
See,
Jason, whatever his name is.
I'd rather see. But even is Aquaman really that badass? He looks like just the most biggest badass mofo in the world. It's like, I saw Super Friends. He's got little concentric circles coming out of his. He's got blonde hair coming out of his head. Anyway, so I forgot what I was going to say.
Something about Cyborg or John John's Martian Manhunter.
That's just all bad.
Yeah, probably. Okay. Well, anyway, let me hit you with some listener mail really quickly.
Ben Affleck. Okay.
Yeah, Ben Affleck. Okay, sorry.
I would rather see Ben Affleck direct all these movies. Ben Affleck is a good director.
I agree.
He has reinvented himself. He directed an Oscar-winning Best Picture. He's done the dark stuff with The Town.
But it's not about the directors. It's not about the directors. It's about the person who sits in an executive position like Feige does. Feige doesn't write these things. He doesn't direct them, but he produces them. He is the Selznick of the whole Marvel universe. And they need someone who is nerdy like Feige, who has the same... Look, it's why I said get Greg Berlanti. Get him out of TV and hand the whole thing to him. Let him just run the whole deal. Let him do it. He's doing it really well on TV. And it's a sunnier approach to it. But come on, Flash is freaking awesome. What he's doing with Flash, amazing. Arrow, amazing. Supergirl, pretty darn good. Anyway.
You really watch all these shows?
I binge watch. That's what I do. That's what I do when I have a moment. I binge watch. Anyway, Jason Vargo, longtime listener. Remember we talked about some gay-themed horror film a few weeks ago?
Yes, you know what? He said,
here's two gay-themed horror movies. One good, the other one horrible. Hellbent. I don't know why he's addressing this to you, I guess because...
No. Jason sent me an email.
Yes.
Right, I've been waiting for the show in order to discuss the email that he sent.
But it so wants to be Hellbent, not great, but it so wants to be good in a made-for-cable way. And the gay bed and breakfast of terror. Terrible, just terrible. The gay bed and breakfast of terror?
Okay, first of all, any movie called The Gay Bed and Breakfast of Terror,
oh my goodness.
I'm just going to have to, being very heterosexual, I'm just going to have to watch that anyway.
Yeah.
Because it sounds hilarious.
Sure.
But then when he emailed it to me, I went online, and because there's a couple clips, there's a trailer online.
Yeah.
And I've got to say, it looks awesome. How could it not? It's the gay Ben breakfast of terror.
Philip Vater. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly and not mispronouncing it. Philip Vater. Could be Vader. If it's Vader, that would be cool. Hi, Mark. Wade. Just saw Gilda on the new Criterion Collection Blu-ray and noticed a lot of parallels between that film and Casablanca. Gilda was released in 46. Casablanca released in 42. Your thoughts on whether Gilda was largely derived from Casablanca and any other interesting history on this possibility? And actually, yeah, that people have talked about that for years, and they talked about it at the time, of course. And it's pretty obvious that Gilda was directly inspired by Casablanca, and that they said, "Hey, let's do something Casablanca-like for Rita Hayworth." And look what it did for Ingrid Bergman. Let's do one for Rita, and that's exactly what it was. And you know what? It's good too. It works. Not as good as Casablanca, but the setting was actually switched to Buenos Aires at the last minute. That film was originally set in the U.S. It was a lot less Casablanca-ish, but wound up being more so. But no one ever actually has confirmed that. But it was so obvious to everybody, especially even at the time in 46, that it's kind of accepted as gospel. So yes, Gilda is a ripoff of Casablanca, but it's a damn good ripoff.
Yes, it is. In fact, if you go online, you can find there are websites that will compare.
Oh yeah,
the two films.
Long list of stuff. Someone's calling you.
This is our friend Ray Green.
Oh.
Who I guess will be interviewed on the show this week because
he's going to show up.
He's going to show up.
Is he down there?
Huh?
He's down there right now. No, he's coming up.
He's coming up now.
Very nice.
This is happening live as we speak.
Very good. All right.
So I hope you have some questions to ask Ray because
Sweet.
Otherwise,
you know what? We do have a thing that we'll talk to Ray about. We do. We absolutely do. Well, before Ray gets here, then, also had an email from Kevin, who says, "Hey guys, when movies with IMAX scenes are moved to Blu-ray, do the IMAX scenes get transferred as well? Some Batman versus Superman scenes are in the IMAX format, and I don't think I'll get a chance to see it in IMAX. Would love to see what the IMAX scenes look like, and would hate it if this was the only opportunity and I missed it." So anyway, the answer to that is a little complicated. Yes, for example, The Dark Knight, Dark Knight Returns on Blu-ray has some IMAX scenes that take up a little bit more resolution on your HD TV. But they're obviously not in that. It's all still down-resed, so you're not really getting any kind of advantage out of it. So the answer is anything that's shot in IMAX, you're never really going to get the IMAX resolution until and unless you actually see it in IMAX format in an IMAX projection situation in a theater. So that's unfortunately the reality unless they figure something out with 4K. But even then, 4K is still 35 millimeter resolution. So. It's kind of a bummer, but there it is. That's the reality. All right, we have a special guest, Mark. Mark? You're over there. Our special guest goes by.
I've stolen his microphone.
Yes, you have. Our special guest has stolen Mark's microphone, and our special guest is
Oslo Welsh.
Oslo Welsh. Thank you, Oslo, for being here.
I consider myself a kind of a lunch bucket kind of a critic. I think I recommend films based on my notion of the common man.
Very good. Well, you have we have imposed a lightning round of choices on you, and you have sorted these films out in
from bad to better.
Okay.
I like to call it from bad to better. Yeah.
The
bad one's on the top, the good one's on the bottom.
All right. Well, could you share your opinion of what we have, what you have in front of you?
Well, we start with the really, really very bad. I don't know if you like classic animation. Personally, I love animation. But, I'm kind of a Bugs Bunny, Chuck Jonesy kind of a guy. But what I'm looking at here are Blu-rays, which is kind of ludicrous on its face for these particular movies, of The Ant and the Aardvark. Like when you used to watch the relatively bad Pink Panther cartoons, then after the Pink Panther cartoon was over, they'd have The Ant and the Aardvark. You don't even remember this. Some of the worst theatrical cartoons ever made by DePatie and Freleng. The interesting thing is that the Freleng in the DePatie Freleng studio is Fritz Freleng, who is one of the greats from Warner Brothers, so I personally blame DePatie for this being as bad as it is. Next, we have a 2-disc set of more DePatie Freleng. The Inspector. This is Clouseau, but without the Pink Panther. Pointless, pointless, pointless. I blame DePatie. Now, this is really interesting. Our next terrible movie, and this is a really terrible movie, in case you didn't notice, is called The Revenant. Now, yes, it saw some action on Oscar night, but did you actually sit through this movie? Except for the part where the bear was yanking Leonardo DiCaprio all over the place, and a little bit of the battle in the beginning. This is a really bad movie. Shot from an angle so low that I felt like it was a movie about Leonardo DiCaprio's nasal hair. It's a torturous movie. It has none of the physical beauty for a movie that they spent so much time filming. None of the physical beauty you would expect from an outdoors picture about that thinks it has some kind of a spiritual core. In fact, it's shot exactly like Birdman. And that type of shooting for Birdman made sense to me because Birdman is like a fantasia inside the guy's mind. I don't know what this thing was, except really, really hard to watch. The Revenant. Terrible movie. You don't need it in your library. Now we come to a movie that should have been great, but isn't. So that ranks a little higher than terrible. This is the movie Death Becomes Her. Meryl Streep, Bruce Willis, Goldie Hawn. Directed by Robert Zemeckis. Might be his least known movie at this point because it didn't quite work. It wants to be a black comedy in which Meryl Streep is this really, really bad person who is resurrected and gets to continue being bad. And it wants to sort of be a horror movie. It didn't just come together, probably because Zemeckis had just broken up with his partner, Robert, it's Gale, right?
Bob Gale.
Bob Gale, yeah, who co-wrote Back to the Future.
Used Cars,
and every other Zemeckis movie. Right, exactly. Please feel free to chime in.
Okay, yeah, no. I'm just enjoying this.
They split up, and they had Zemeckis had literally never med a movie since his student film days at USC.
Zemeckis lost his Robert Bolt. It was like Lean losing his Bolt, or like Iñárritu losing his the guy who wrote Babel with him.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm really impressed that you know how to pronounce Iñárritu.
Thank you. That's because Claudia Puig drilled that into us all.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
The special point to make here is that Zemeckis righted himself. He went on to make Contact, Forrest Gump, of course. He's made some very good movies, and he's made a few very, very bad movies. The Polar Express. Can I go off on the Polar Express for a second?
Sure, why not?
I just want to say to anybody who watches that every Christmas that this is the movie that convinced me that there is such a thing as the human soul. Because when you look at these absolutely dead-eyed animated versions of Tom Hanks, of which there are, I think, 93 in this movie, they all look as if somebody has sucked their souls out through their eyeballs and left them dead zombie hulks of cheerfulness. So that's not a good movie either. And Death Becomes Her wanted to be a good movie, but it wasn't. Now we come to movies that start to be interestingly bad and kind of good. This is an anthology I'm looking at here. It's called Hammer Films Collection, which seems to me like something that should have been taken as a title, actually.
Yeah.
And, you know, I like those old Hammer horror movies. I kind of grew up with them on television, like a lot of you guys out there. I am a lunch bucket sort of a critic after all. And but I looked at the titles on this thing. Creatures the World Forgot. Never Take Candy from a Stranger. Maniac. Die, Die, My Darling. The Snorkel. There's a Hammer horror film called The Snorkel. And then one movie I recognize. The Revenge of Frankenstein, part of the Hammer Frankenstein cycle that revitalized those old Universal horror movies by actually focusing on the guy named Frankenstein, who is not the guy with the bolts in his neck. He's actually the scientist. Dr. Frankenstein in all of the Hammer horror films is played by the great Peter Cushing. It's a nuanced performance, very different from his Van Helsing. His Van Helsing in the Dracula films, very compassionate.
I'm so glad you remember this.
Yeah, no problem. I think his most chilling character is his Frankenstein in the Hammer Frankenstein movies because he's a total Nietzschean Superman. How about that? For a lunch bucket guy, that's pretty big stuff. He is amoral. He lives by his own force of will. And he thinks that his superiority to everything around him allows him to do terrible, terrible things, which you get to watch in loving and spectacular splatterish red Technicolor. So I can recommend this entire Hammer Films collection purely on the basis of the fact that Peter Cushing plays Frankenstein in one of the movies. Now we move to a movie that's somewhat better than The Revenge of Frankenstein.
We all like this a lot, I think.
Son of Saul.
The Oscar-winning foreign language film.
By Wade, you're the master of foreign pronunciation. Laszlo Nemes, I think.
Nemes.
Yep,
that's
Laszlo
Nemes.
Right, I forgot. Laszlo Nemes. I should know this.
Yeah, first-time director.
Laszlo Nemes, and took forever to direct it as well.
Yeah.
It took many years to make this film. Son of Saul won the Academy Award for Best Foreign Film.
Don't you agree? Wouldn't you agree? I think that all that stagey stuff in The Revenant that he does, that borrowed from Birdman, where you feel like they spent a week and a half putting all the pieces into place and everything just looks very perfectly staged and choreographed with the camera. I don't think this is any less impressive, but it's less obvious. It's more organic.
I didn't find the stuff in The Revenant to be beautifully staged.
No.
I found it to be...
meticulously staged, but very showy.
Well, we could talk about camera movement for an entire episode of your series if I was being paid to do this with. But, camera movement, to me, when it's used the way that it was used in The Revenant, is really about the director wanting to demonstrate with every frame of the film that it has been directed. Mm-hmm. In Son of Saul, a movie that has long, fluid takes, basically there is a completely organic reason, which is they want you to see it as a real environment. In fact, one of the things that didn't get said about this movie, well, we need to explain the movie. Son of Saul is a movie that takes place in Auschwitz, where the lead character is a Sonderkommando. Sonderkommando is somebody who was responsible for cleaning up after the dead when the gas chambers were up.
And they are inmates as well. I mean, they are Jews. They are
inmates as well.
Inmates
and we meet him as his time as a Sonderkommando is about to come to an end, which means they're next in the chambers. It's an absolutely beautiful movie about a man who basically rediscovers his humanity. A dead man. He is a dead man. He has had to become dead to do what he does. And he rediscovers his humanity because there's a boy who doesn't die in the gas chamber. There's a boy who survives. He's horribly gasping for breath, but the gas chamber hasn't killed him. And this particular man, Saul, looks that boy in the eyes. And he decides that it's going to be his task in life to make sure he gets a real traditional Jewish burial. He needs to do one human thing before the horror engulfs him. It's an absolutely stunning movie.
It's great.
And one thing that I think didn't get said enough about this film is that it's structured in a way that very intentionally takes Saul across the length and breadth of what Auschwitz was. It's not simply ovens. Saul goes on a quest to find a rabbi to perform the task that he wishes to have performed for this dead body, which he manages to steal from the Nazis. And in searching for that rabbi, he takes us into every nook and cranny of Auschwitz, demonstrating something that's important to remember, which is it was a factory. It had weight and heft. It was like carefully plotted hell that was created by human beings to function like a well-oiled machine. And that is what humanity is up against. And I think that can be extended even beyond the experience of Nazism, not that it needs to be. This is a beautiful movie.
It's fantastic.
It's a cliche that movies about the Holocaust win the Oscar, but you know what? The truth is it's an eternally important human experience that we need to not forget. And when somebody finds a really brilliant new way to make us look squarely at the horror, we should honor it. So, pretty good movie. But not as good as Rudy Ray Moore in Dolomite. Because I am a lunch bucket critic here.
Dolomite on Blu-ray for the very first time, let's point out.
Dolomite is on Blu-ray. Now, if you don't know who Dolomite is, well, let us tell you who Dolomite is. First of all, Rudy Ray Moore deserves all kind of mad props because he invented this character. Yeah, it's kind of a ripoff of the blaxploitation characters of the period. It's a little bit Superfly. It's a little bit Shaft, but it's all Rudy Ray Moore. It's a caricature of African-American sexual, moral, and physical energy. And often playing with a lot of the cliches that white people laid on black people. You know, if a white woman looks at Dolomite, she will orgasm in these movies. Rudy Ray Moore basically did everything on these films, and they were completely independent productions. They laid fallow for decades and were rediscovered by hipsters in the 1990s.
And he goes off in all of these films and does a lot of stand-up routines, which is what he was famous for, these epic stand-up routines. But a tidbit on Dolomite that people should know, Rudy Ray Moore was the first black man to actually own his own negative. He fully independently financed this film, and he owned it. He owned it outright and
You just
exploited
skipped over
it.
Melvin Van Peebles, my friend.
He didn't own it. He didn't own it.
Melvin Van Peebles certainly owned the story of
Sweetback?
a 3-day pass long before Rudy Ray Moore owned Dolomite.
But that is
Those are these are movies he made before he made Sweetback's badass song.
That's beyond me. You beat me.
There you go.
Yeah.
What do I win?
I'm
taking all the DVDs home.
Rudy claimed otherwise.
Oh well, Rudy was. I'm sure he's a paragon of truth. Sweetback's badass song. According to Melvin Van Peebles' book, he did own that movie, and he made a fortune off of the film.
Eventually.
Okay, well, I think Rudy Ray wanted to give himself some sort of credit, other than the fact that this movie is a parody of Sweetback's badass song, which is the first blaxploitation film, and it's important to remember doesn't know it's a blaxploitation film.
True.
It's a very different achievement and a very important achievement in American cinema, not just African American cinema. Sweetback is. Dolomite is just a blast. You want to watch something that will make you laugh and feel guilty about it, but you'll admire the hell out of the energy, and not always, energy is its primary talent on display, but it is, for those of us who can reach into our minds and correct for things that maybe could have been done a little differently, it's a great ride.
Rudy's kung fu is good, but it's better in the sequel, The Human Tornado, which also features the film debut of Ernie Hudson.
By the way, that's pronounced The Human Tornado. if you Rudy Ray it. Okay. So Dolomite, slightly better than Son of Saul. Now we come to the best movie of the week. Oh, wait, I skipped over one because I don't know quite where to place it. Alice's Restaurant. Wait a minute, this isn't the Arthur Penn movie, dude.
No, this is the concert.
A concert film. Okay, yeah. Arlo Guthrie. Well, okay, I'll go on Arlo Guthrie. This is a music documentary, basically. Arlo Guthrie singing and playing and so forth. I'm going to give Arlo some props. I'm not ranking him. He's not better than Dolomite, but I'm going to give him some props. Great American voice, very important figure. I actually saw him many, 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 many years ago at a little tiny offshoot No Nukes concert that was held in Manchester, New Hampshire. And the acts for our little mini festival in Manchester, we didn't get Springsteen, we didn't get Jackson Browne, we didn't get, John Cougar Mellencamp, we didn't get Neil Young. We got Arlo Guthrie and the Poussette Dart Band. And you know what? Arlo was great. He was absolutely charming. Guy can play the hell out of anything acoustic. He's the son of the great Woody Guthrie, of course. The interesting thing about Arlo, in addition to the fact that he's actually written a lot of really good songs, Coming into Los Angeles is probably the most famous one. He did the what for me is probably the definitive version of what was it? The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry. City of New Orleans.
Oh,
Remember City of New Orleans?
Sure, yeah.
That was his big hit, and it's an absolutely beautiful recording. But what people don't know about Arlo is that he lived under a kind of a death sentence for a lot of his life. His father died a horrible death from an MS-related disease. I'm forgetting the exact name of the disease. It's like Lou Gehrig's disease. Yeah. Very, very horrible death. Woody Guthrie became unable to speak, unable to play his instrument, and so on and so forth. And because of the nature of that disease, Arlo Guthrie, until midlife, didn't know if he was going to get it. One of his albums in the 70s is called Outlasting the Blues, and it's an album about, knowing every day that you might wake up and find that there's atrophy and that you're going to have to live through this terrible thing he saw his father live through. So the second half of his career is a grace note. And this little documentary here, named after his most famous countercultural track, Alice's Restaurant, is, the 50th anniversary concert celebrating his entire career. Well worth your time and money.
Lovely.
Now we come to our climactic best film of the week. Better than Son of Saul, better than The Revenge of Frankenstein, and, a movie that didn't get its due. I blame DePatie for that, by the way.
Okay. We're blaming DePatie for everything this week.
I am. I'm blaming him for Trump as well, by the way. That's not Freleng's fault. Freleng would have seen the humor in that one. The Stuff. This is a film by Larry Cohen. Now, Larry Cohen is an interesting figure in the history of Hollywood because sometimes he's written A features.
Yeah.
Phone Booth was
Which
Larry
was
Cohen.
originally supposed to be a Hitchcock film many years earlier.
A Larry Cohen script, a phone booth, a movie about a guy stuck in a phone booth in an era when we don't have any phone booths. Kind of a major achievement just to get that produced. But Cohen has, back in the 70s, late 70s, and into the mid 80s, Cohen would sometimes go and make low budget horror films. The Stuff is probably the best of them. It is I think, a right-wing satire of left-wing political correctness.
That's fascinating.
It is about
I never thought of it that way.
But it is, right?
It is. I can see that.
It's about how, Larry Cohen was irritated by the fact that we were all supposed to start eating right and all that kind of stuff back in the 80s. Remember when people ate wrong intentionally? There was a big best-selling book called Real Men Don't Eat Quiche back in those days. So he made this movie called The Stuff, in which it's also a little bit left-wing because there's an evil chemical company or something. But they invent a highly addictive food substitute yogurt that I think the original poster said, "Are you eating it or is it eating you?" It's kind of hilarious. It's the only movie I can think of off the top of my head that features Garrett Morris from Saturday Night Live playing a version of Famous Amos. So he's like a dessert king, so he gets involved because the stuff is,
That's great.
Everybody's so addicted to it, it's killing all the desserts. But the main thing this movie's doing is it's with a very kind of, blank-faced, black comedic, satiric energy. It's going after all the meaningless and stupid rules that Larry Cohen thought were becoming a big part of our culture. It will seem like a real period piece because those rules won. But I think it's a neglected little horror gem that's one of the movies that helped me get through the 80s.
Outstanding, and that is new to Blu-ray from the Arrow collection. The Arrow collection that's giving us a lot of really cool exploitation stuff. And a lot of fun extras on that, including the Can't Get Enough of the Stuff making of little featurette. And by the way, there's also a making of documentary on Dolomite. And the one thing I will add for The Revenant is The Revenant is also available in a 4K Blu-ray edition, which is the first 4K Blu-ray that I've seen that is actually that honors the 4K format, that actually makes me think, okay, there's something to this. But that, I think, is only because the film was shot with those new Arriflex cameras, which are, in theory, kind of like the equivalent of a 65mm or 70mm digital camera.
The question I have then is, if it looks so good in 4K, does it amplify the suckiness? Or does it actually make the suckiness a little more tolerable?
It makes the bear look unbelievably like something that DePatie would have done in one of those animated films.
I think DePatie did a lot of damage
to
our culture.
Yeah.
We're dragging that into the light here on the podcast.
We are. Mark, should we? Are you going to join the show again here at some point?
I'm very much enjoying.
Way off mic. Mark is telling he's enjoying us.
Oswald Cumberbatch. What's your name again? Oswald Cumberbatch.
Welsh. Oslo Welsh.
Yes.
Okay.
The question I have is, if you watch enough DePatie movies, does that mean that you become DePatie trained?
Oh boy, that was really bad. Wade has a kid. He thinks that. It's a funny thing I've noticed in life. When people get kids, gradually, but they go down to that level where, like, they think saying wee is funny. I don't know.
It's a thing. All right,
can I throw out a couple of other quick thoughts?
Yes.
I just want to say that since The Stuff really is the best movie on the pile this week, go look at some other of those old gems from the 80s. About half the Freddy Krueger movies are worth another look, especially if you view them as parables about the time. The 80s were very materialistic, and these are movies about teenagers who have better sex than you'll ever have and drive better cars than you'll ever drive. And Freddy doesn't kill them in the middle period of those films. It's their possessions that come to life and kill them. So, you materialists out there. And I also want to throw out my absolute favorite neglected horror movie from the 80s, Hidden. Do you remember a film called Hidden?
Sure.
Yeah, I like that movie.
Hidden was an amazingly great movie starring Kyle MacLachlan and some ex-porn actor playing a cop. But it was actually about the id of the 1980s. This alien creature comes to Earth. It can jump from body to body. And the only way you can tell whose body it's in is that it's completely addicted to fast cars, heavy metal music, and anything to do with eating and sex. So it's basically, and by the end it decides it's going to run for president. So, that's America to a lunch bucket guy like me.
I remember the hidden so well. That freaked a lot of people out. Well, thank you, Oslo. Was his
Welsh.
Oslo Welsh. Thank you, Oslo.
They invite me on the show, and they both forget my name. I'm picking up my lunch bucket, and I'm going home.
All right. Thank you, Oslo.
Oh,
round of applause.
Am I coming back?
Yeah, you're coming back. You're coming
And now I throw the microphone over to Mark Cumberbatch, was it?
Yeah,
Isn't Oswald Cumberbatch the name of the penguin?
So let's roll
Is
through.
that
Oslo!
No, but Oswald Cumberbatch was the name of the penguin in Batman, right? Was his name not Oswald Cumberbatch?
Cumberbund? Whatever it was. It was something like that.
Come Dancing? I don't know.
Yeah. All right, new movies. Mark, shall we nail some new movies off?
I would love to nail some new movies.
Okay. Well, Natalie Portman and Jane Got a Gun. This thing was delayed a couple of times, and I actually think this is not a bad Western. She's... Without giving too much away, Jane has a bit of a history, and she thinks that she's sort of settled down happily. And it turns out that some individuals and some events that from an earlier chapter of her life are now returning to haunt her and her husband. And naturally, that means a lot of gunfire out in the open prairie, and a lot of female empowerment, which is the new thing now in westerns, right? We got to have tough women out on the frontier. We didn't used to have them. We had Annie Oakley and Annie Got a Gun, and they sang songs, but now it's Natalie Portman with a rifle. And I'm okay with that. I actually think this is a good film. It's out on Blu-ray for the first time, and Natalie Portman really has kind of... Noah Emmerich's in this as well, by the way. Very, very good. And not much by way of extras, but you do get Ultraviolet if you want to carry it around on your phone and get some female Western empowerment somewhere on the plane or on a train or somewhere like that. It's good. It's good. Jane Got a Gun. Natalie Portman really has she's gone off grid a little bit, hasn't she? Ever
Yes,
since
very
winning
much
the Oscar.
so.
She had a kid.
I believe she was raising her child.
Yeah.
She directed a movie.
She directed a movie. Yeah. That's right. Okay.
Wait,
Fair enough.
who said that?
I don't.
Was that Oswald Cumberpot? What's your name again?
Yeah. So carry on. Oh, yeah. You got some concert stuff there too. So
I have two concert things to talk about. One is Rainbow Monsters of Rock. Now, Richie Blackmore, of course, was a founding member of Deep Purple, Smoke on the Water, and his main solo contribution was as the main guitarist of Rainbow. They had a couple of hits, and this is from 1980. This is live at Donington, and I'm a big Deep Purple fan.
CD-DVD combo, I guess.
It is a CD-DVD combo, not a Blu-ray combo. No, Blu-ray not involved. I'm much more of a Deep Purple fan than I am a Rainbow fan, but if you are let's say a Richie Blackmore completist, you may want to go for this. Of course, it doesn't look that great because, again, this is 36 years ago. By the way, 1980, 36 years ago. Putting it out there.
All right, fair enough. And I got a couple here from Indican. Indican is releasing a lot of really interesting little indies. One is called The Afghan, which should not be confused as having really anything to do with Afghanistan these days. It's basically about a refugee from Afghanistan, but it otherwise has next to nothing to do with it. But it's actually not bad. It's a kind of a children's one of those coming of age deals. Kids, connecting in ways that adults can't, and then throw in a little bit of a thriller angle, and you come up with a decent indie. I got another one here called Adios, Vaya con Dios. Which is one of those kind of urban thrillers that are set against the backdrop of gang warfare in a major city, in this case Chicago. Doesn't really have anything above and beyond any other films that have sort of dealt with this world, other than the fact that it is directed by La Raza, and I don't know if that's the name of a guy or a collective. I don't know what that is. Anyway, Mark, what else you got?
Oh, I have Ride Along 2. This is a piece of crap starring Ice Cube and Kevin Hart. I'm just saying it's a piece of crap because we have a very, very famous person here sitting next to me who does not want me referring to films as pieces of crap. But it's Ride Along 2. May I just say that instead of wallowing in the cheap laughs and cliches of Ride Along 2, which stars two African-American comics, you should check out the Barbershop series. The Barbershop series real issues discussed in the Barbershop series, Wade Major.
Yes, I know.
Right? Can you not respect Oswald Cobblepot? Can you not respect the Barbershop series?
I think
they put real African American issues out there in the form of a comedy.
Those films are good.
I want to point out that Spike Lee's famous student film was called Joe's Bed-Stuy Barbershop, We Cut Heads. There is a tradition in the African American community of these being important meeting spaces, and I think the barbershop films honor that tradition in the way they depict the barbershop and the people who come into it.
I agree.
As opposed to Ride Along 2, which really honors and worships money.
Yeah.
And the making
By the way,
money.
the guys who wrote Ride Along 2, who have been studio hacks for quite a long time, also wrote a spec film, which I recently saw and covered on radio, called The Invitation, which is in theaters right now. We'll probably be talking about it on DVD or Blu-ray in a couple of months. But The Invitation, sharp film. So clearly they are able to shed their hackery when the big paychecks aren't rolling.
Blame the producers.
Huh?
Ice Cube.
Yes. Well, Ice Cube. Who would have thought he'd become the mogul guy that he is, making the movies that he is? Kind of interesting.
Look, after a while, these guys, it's like Queen Latifah. She's cleaned up now, and she's starring in HBO movies.
Yeah.
I mean, after a while, you grow. Like any actor or actress, you have to find that new phase of your career. And it's interesting that these early rap stars have to sort of make that same transition. Where do they go? Is Ice Cube going to be a 55-year-old rapper rapping about the police?
He very
He's
well
gotta find
may be.
something. Oh, here comes Oswald Cobblepot.
I just love the fact that the guy who's saying, we have language standards, so I got to say F the police here?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. Who's saying F the police plays cops. And I love the fact that Ice-T, who wrote the famous song Cop Killer, spent like 19 years on homicide life in the streets.
No,
Whatever.
SVU.
Playing a police officer. I mean, irony, America.
Yes.
Irony, please.
Yes. We've got a couple of animated things here. Albert, Up and Away is an animated film based on or inspired by the Ole Lund Kierkegaard book, Albert. I'm going to assume that Ole Lund...
If I see another film based on the early Kierkegaard book,
Yeah.
Albert, I'm just going to scream.
That's not the same Kierkegaard that people study in college.
Wade is pulling these foreign pronunciations out of his butt, just so you know. And he just knows that Mark and Oslo Welsh are too illiterate to call him on it.
Well, anyway, this is essentially a low-budget animated attempt to do something similar to Up. All the kids take off in a hot air balloon. Winds up not being all that. It feels a little bit more like wacky races in the air at a certain point, but it's innocuous enough. And
We're busting out.
well,
1963 animated references.
yeah, there you go.
We're that kind of show.
We're sharp. On Blu-ray and DVD with a little bit of ultraviolet on it as well is the animated film that completely tanked, Norm of the North. This was a Lionsgate release, and I guess it meant to be a little bit like Ice Age. It was all about a polar bear named Norm, and who
Voiced
go.
by Rob Schneider, wasn't he?
Yeah. It's like Crocodile Dundee with a polar bear. He goes to New York. He's a polar bear out of ice, out of water, fish out of water, fish out of Arctic water. I don't know how you want to put it, but anyway, pretty routine stuff. Nothing really spectacular. They've got really kind of lame extras on it, but. Will it keep the kids busy for 90 minutes? Yeah, sure, absolutely. If you got to do something, so pop it on and push pause on the household chaos. Yes, Mark.
Back to me.
Back to you.
Daniel Tosh is a stand-up comic who I do enjoy. He's kind of a one-dimensional comic. He doesn't have much to say. He's certainly not a Chris Rock type, but I do find his one-liners funny. He's had a Comedy Central show for many years that I do get the occasional chuckle out of. This is a DVD, not a Blu-ray, Daniel Tosh People Pleaser. This is a live concert from the Wilshire Ebell Theater, where I went to a wedding about 20 years ago. So again, if you love Daniel Tosh, that's definitely worth a look. Otherwise, I would pass. Also, if you want to get your Joe Dante on, you might want to check out Krampus. What do you think of Krampus? I like Krampus.
You know what I liked about Krampus?
It's very like Gremlins-y, Poltergeisty.
Yeah, the thing I liked most about Krampus was that it gave us another year to sort of extend the joke that we started with in LAFCA, where we actually put forward Mr. Babadook in the acting categories and as best new talent. And I think that really was a lot of fun this year that we were actually pushing Krampus for best actor.
Wait. One of us what was
It kept
you?
it going.
No, was it? Okay, here's the thing. In Lafka, there's a Google Doc that goes around, and the Google Doc you
And
can
everyone,
add.
you enter the names of the actors and the
And
individuals.
it's serious stuff because
it's
we
serious.
take it seriously.
Yeah.
And somebody, it was either you or me, entered Krampus as best actor. Who was that? You or me? I think it might have been you.
wasn't me.
Well, no,
Wasn't
it wasn't
me.
you. That was me. I think I did.
It was probably you. I put Mr. Babadook in the previous year. I
How
plead
do you know it's not
guilty to
Mrs.
that.
Babadook? You don't. Do you really know?
Yeah, you know.
Maybe Babadook is transgender.
Wouldn't it be crazy?
What restroom would the Babadook use?
That wouldn't be transgender. That would be transdook.
Exactly. All right, so Krampus is good, kind of non-traditional
Yeah, it's
Joe
fine.
Dante holiday fun.
Sure, why not?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Oh, wait, hang on a second.
Yes.
Again, I want to add a historical perspective. If you've seen Gremlins, it does have that wonderful scene where Phoebe Cates tells us about how her dad dressed up as Santa, got trapped in the chimney, and decomposed over the holiday season. So I think Krampus is really showing that Joe is an auteur and who has a really interesting view of the Christmas season.
Absolutely.
I like how you affect the Joe Sixpack accent to hide your highfalutin New Yorker reading Pinky in the Airways.
The truth is, this is the way I really talk. I actually cultivate other ways of talking to deal with people I don't like.
All right.
Mark, back to you.
Yeah.
I like to bury in cement.
There we go.
You're wearing some cement shoes.
It's becoming more and more Coppola or something.
All right.
Oh, we have Backtrack. This is straight to Blu-ray average stuff, starring Oscar winner Adrian Brody. Putting that out there.
Yeah.
And Sam Neill, by the way, who's still out there.
He is.
I like Sam Neill.
Yeah.
Glad the guy's still getting work. Anyway, there you go. Sometimes we just tell you they exist, and that's all we can say.
It's on Blu-ray. It's on Blu-ray.
We have
Good actors.
As you know, one of my favorite issues of the Hollywood Reporter and Variety is the AFM issue, where you get to see all the big movies that your favorite stars do that you will never see. One of them would be Standoff, because it stars Lawrence Fishburne. And it also stars Thomas Jane. By the way, Thomas Jane did not make a good Punisher. However, the guy who plays the Punisher on the Daredevil show
is awesome.
Is awesome.
Yeah, he is.
They should spin that guy off on his own show.
You know, he was also very, very good in the David Ayer Tank movie with Brad Pitt.
Fury.
Fury. Yep, he was very good in that too.
Rock and roll.
The Driftless area was at Tribeca Film Festival last year, and this is one of those movies that has a lot of really good actors in it, and yet you wonder, what does it amount to? I mean, come on. Zooey Deschanel, John Hawkes, Anton Yelchin, Aubrey Plaza, Frank Langella. How can that not miss? The Driftless area. How does that not miss? And yet somehow it doesn't. It's nothing. It doesn't work. And I'm not quite sure why. It's just one of those movies that has a lot of talent, and somehow it all kind of wraps.
Shut up! Our special guest has something to say. Nobody.
Anyway, it all wraps.
See that movie.
It all wraps together in not much. Doesn't add up to much. But anyway, there it is.
I just want to say, if you loves you some Dario Argento, if you loves you some Coffin Joe, maybe the box set Death Walks Twice is for you. These are It's for you guys out there. I forget how to pronounce this. Giallo? What's the Italian?
Giallo, yes.
Giallo, yeah, the Italian horror cycle. Luciano is a lesser figure in the Italian horror cycle of the 1970s. He made these movies.
This is also from the Arrow collection.
That's from the Arrow collection.
Yeah.
Death Walks on High Heels and Death Walks at Midnight. Say no more than the titles, and you know if you want these movies in your life.
Well done. Yeah. All right. I see Death Walks Twice, and all I can think of is Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, and then I remember that the Twin Peaks are almost they're shooting now. They're doing the new series.
We're going to talk about Chantal Akerman now, and I think I should speak in a different accent for this one. Chantal Akerman is a great Belgian filmmaker who really is. It almost feels like she should have been part of the French New Wave, except she really hit her vogue and her stride in the 1980s.
Yep.
Well, after the French New Wave.
And we dedicated our awards dinner to her passing, her untimely passing this last year.
Well, news to me.
Yeah.
But Chantal Akerman is, as a result, enjoying a vogue. This is a collection of 4 of her films from the East, down there, South, and From the Other Side. These are actually rather late films of her career, spanning 1993 to 2006. This is a great international artist, and if you're a connoisseur of film, if you're a Criterion Collection type of person, you should really think about checking them out.
There is actually a wonderful Chantal Akerman box set. I'm trying to remember if it's formally a Criterion or if it's an Eclipse, but that's been out as well. This would be a great thing to add to that. So definitely worth rediscovering her work, and there's a lot of it coming. There's a lot of it to go. I mean, she left quite a body of work, didn't she?
She was the prince of filmmakers.
She was. She was. What Lola Wants is one of these hyper low budget indies that does a reasonable job of kind of spinning a kind of a mangled teen romance off of some kind of a Hollywood backdrop, but not bad. Rupert Glasson, who wrote and directed it, keep an eye out. He will emerge from the indie scene in short order. And then another one of these prison movies called Convict, oddly enough, starring George Basha and David Field. Kind of, better than average, low budget prison film, but doesn't really do anything new. So that's out there. Mark, what else do we have?
You asking me?
I don't know. Do you have anything over there?
We have Drunk, Stone, Brilliant, Dead, the story of National Lampoon.
Yeah, no, we're not going to get into that. Yeah, that's docs. Okay. You know what I'm going to do?
What?
I'm going to talk about some Criterions.
You should do that.
I'm going to talk about three Criterions this week.
I'm going to give the mic to Oswald Cobblepot. What's your name again?
Oslo Welsh.
Oslo.
I have something I think I can add to the proceedings. How about if I go down the list of films starring Prince and rate them for you? None of which are available on DVD anymore, by the way.
Well, not really.
No, except for Purple Rain.
Purple Rain's on DVD, but you're talking about like the really obscure stuff. Like,
well, there's only 4 of them, so you know. But Prince broke through. I mean, people wonder why he was so big.
He directed 2 of those
as a
films.
Movie star. He directed 3 of those films.
Did he direct 3? Was it 3?
Yeah.
Cherry Moon.
Okay, well let me do it.
Okay, we'll do it. Go ahead.
People won't know what's being talked about.
Okay.
Prince just died, and Prince.
We talked about it at the top of the show too.
And he talked about it at the top of the show. So I'm coming in here. I'm from the same generation of people as Wade and Mark, which means I'm old. And Prince was huge for me. I saw Prince from the front row at the Staples Center. I saw an after-hours concert of his. I saw him on the Purple Rain tour. I saw Glam Slam Ulysses, the utterly forgotten musical he attempted at his club here in Los Angeles, and watched Carmen Electra carried around by a couple of bodyguards as the central prop for that show. I loved Prince. I thought Prince's music was great. There seemed, when you listen to his records, like there wasn't anything he couldn't do. But there was 2 things he couldn't do. He was a terrible graphic artist, okay? Nobody's going to convince me that symbol he invented for himself. I used to refer to it as androgynous trombone when he lost his name and became a symbol. But the other thing he couldn't do is he could not direct movies to save his life. So he was in Purple Rain, which was an unexpected big sleeper hit, very powerful movie, directed by Albert Magnoli, a reasonably hackish director.
A USC grad. We talked about that at the top of the show.
Reasonably hackish director, but somebody who at least had like the MTV style, and the movie was edited to within an inch of its life. Mm-hmm. Prince became such a big star that, as he did with music, he decided to seize control of his film career. And his next movie was called Under the Cherry Moon, and it is virtually unwatchable. Written and directed by Prince, black and white movie, famous. Should be remembered only for one thing. I believe it is the film debut of Kirsten Scott Thomas. Is it not?
Yes, it is. That is true.
Okay, in a very shrill and awful role. This is a terrible, terrible movie. It's set in it's a period film set in Paris, but all the songs they do are modern and just a rotten movie. If you want the good version of that movie, buy the album Parade, which was affiliated with it, which is a masterpiece. Prince then actually did his one good job of making a movie after that. He directed a concert film called Sign of the Times, based on the album of the same name.
Oh, that's the one I was leaving out, the concert film.
It's actually a great concert film. It is really worth seeking out, except that, like most of the movies Prince made, you can't seek it out because it's not in print. The last film he directed is a real stumper. It was actually a sequel to Purple Rain, It stars Morris Day and the Time. It stars Prince. It stars a bunch of people that were kind of hanging out at Paisley Park back in the day. It's called Graffiti Bridge, and it is not quite as unwatchable.
Not terrible.
It's terrible, but it's not quite. It's not Under the Cherry Moon terrible.
It's kind of it's sort of cultish.
It's got, well, here's what it's got that's good. It's got about, I think the deal that he got from Warner Brothers to make it was that it had to contain stuff that could be pulled out of it as music videos.
Yeah, exactly.
So there are about 6 music videos in it. For the songs are characteristically great.
Yeah.
One of them's a Tevin Campbell song, Round and Round, which was one of the best things that came out of that protege of Quincy Jones. Prince's contributions to it are great, and the Times stuff is fantastic. Neglected time gem that you can pick up on the soundtrack to Graffiti Bridge is called Shake. Wonderful song. And Release It, another great Time song. Strangely, I'm a huge Prince fan. I own all the albums. The song that I keep turning to over and over again in the aftermath of his death is the climactic song from that film, which is called Still Would Stand All Time. Gospel number, one of the most beautiful things he ever wrote, and very poignant in the context. And now we are done with the film career of Prince.
And I'm gonna go into the Criterion stuff, because we got a trio of really good Criterion films. Mark has left the room, by the way. I think he's given up on us.
Mark has a day job.
Yeah, he does. Well, anyway, 3 really cool Criterions. The first is the Kennedy Films of Robert Drew and Associates, which includes Primary, Adventures on the New Frontier, Crisis, and Faces of November. This is a very unusual Criterion release that basically is just giving us, I think, films that are maybe not artistically significant, but they are historically significant. So it fills. It's not. You're not going to learn a great deal about filmmaking from this, but it is certainly historically extremely significant, and I'm glad that they've added it to their library. We also have Brief Encounter, which for many years was atop the Sight and Sound poll of the greatest films ever made. And, of course, then veered as generations passed. That eventually veered over to Citizen Kane. And recently it's become Vertigo. Isn't that strange? Vertigo is now considered by the Sight and Sound poll the greatest film ever made.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
I don't get it personally, but what do I know?
Well,
I think they just wanted to be provocative, knock
guess.
Kane off the thing so people would pay attention to that damn list again.
Well, Brief Encounter was one of David Lean's early successes, and it was during his Noel Coward period when he was directing things written by Noel Coward, which all sort of came with a huge pedigree. But here's the thing about Brief Encounter. It's a very simple story, essentially a story of a bored housewife who meets a man at the train station and develops this sort of platonic attraction that almost becomes a love affair. And it is a remarkable film because of the performances. And you're really watching this primarily for Celia Johnson. Trevor Howard is the man, Celia Johnson is the woman. But Celia Johnson has a face that is unmatched in film acting history, except perhaps by Juliette Binoche.
I would just like to add that I personally hate this movie. It's part of a British genre that drives me completely up the wall about people who have loves that dare not speak their names and are slowly crushed by them. The English Patient being the worst ever example of it, because they're not just crushed by it; they're set on fire.
This was the first one.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, get over it.
Well,
folks, if you ever fall in love with somebody, go ahead and sleep with them. That's the lesson of these movies.
This includes the 2008 restoration of the film, the 2000 commentary by film historian Bruce Eder, an interview with Noel Coward scholar Barry Day from 2012, short documentary, a bunch of other great things, including the one that I really love on this is David Lean: A Self-Portrait, which is a TV documentary from 1971 on David Lean's career, which covers everything up through Ryan's Daughter. It obviously does not cover Passage to India, the last film. But
and this is
really
why
good.
This is why you really want to get the Criterions. They're so well curated.
Absolutely.
Some of the best stuff you'll get on Fellini and Buñuel are not necessarily even on the best of their films.
Entirely true. True.
But, again, you're watching restrained British people get crushed to death by emotions they can't fully feel. Yawn.
And then we also have Phoenix, which is a really cool Criterion release of a film that just came out this last year. Christian Petzold's amazing movie which was one of the huge foreign language hits last year. Really amazing, fascinating World War II film. I mean, it goes right. There were two great World War II films last year. I thought this was one, and Son of Saul was the other. Son of Saul, technically, yes, a Holocaust film, but also, the Holocaust being the crucial part of World War II. So I would put them both together. But this is essentially the story of confused identity, or I don't even know how I'm going to put this without sort of giving the game away. But it's how the question here is, if someone believes that you are dead, and you can present yourself to them as someone else. That's even getting confusing. What if you could pretend to be the person you really are without the other person knowing that you are the person that you are? Does that make sense?
No.
No? Okay.
But it sounds really interesting.
Well, anyway, you didn't see Phoenix. Phoenix is good.
I didn't see Phoenix.
It's a cool...
Your pithy description of it makes me realize just how much I missed.
Yeah, well, anyway. I think Mark has permanently left the room, so...
I think I broke up the team.
Well, anyway, and then it's okay. It's okay. It's just one of those days.
Mark is jet lagged. Mark was in New York.
Oh,
it's like 7 a.m. or something in New York.
Well, here's you know what? I'm going to nail a couple here real quickly just to cap things off. One is The Winter, which is a very strange but fascinating Greek film that plays a little bit like Pan's Labyrinth, which is the idea in theory. A really freaky, phantasmagorical exercise in special effects and creature effects. This is from IndiePix Films, and it's one of the most impressive IndiePix Films releases I've seen in a long time. Really, really just dazzling. Oh, there he is. He's back.
Oh, Mark is coming back to help Wade sign off. I forgot a Prince movie.
Yes.
He also did the song score to Spike Lee's Girl 6, most of which was previously released material, but not all.
Oh, that's a good one.
That is a good one. Spike has a whole bunch of movies that you folks out there need to revisit. An entire episode on Spike is called for.
All right.
Mark is back now, and
we're gonna try to start to wrap this up a little bit.
Wait, that's not promising. We're going to try to start to wrap this up.
In a moment.
We're going to wrap this up. We're going to try to start to wrap this up.
Well, The Jungle Book is a shameless animated.
Rip off next.
So this is a shameless.
Now get into the spirit of the show.
Yeah, this is sort of shameless. Cinedigm has taken basically four short animated fairy tale things. They're about 50 minutes apiece, and these are just really kind of cheesy Disney fairy tale ripoff shorts. And
DePatie.
Yeah, DePatie. They've thrown them all together under the Jungle Book to basically take advantage of the fact that the Jungle Book is wiping it up at the box office right now. So you get Alice in Wonderland, Beauty and the Beast, Snow White, and the Jungle Book, not the Disney versions, but someone else's animated version because it's all in the public domain.
The lesson, children, is never let your books fall into the public domain.
Well,
crappy things will happen to you.
I don't know how you help it. Sometimes. All right, Mark, that's it for us this week. Get some sleep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Should we thank our special guest?
We should. Well, let's thank our special guest, Oslo.
Once we remember his name, we will thank our special guest.
Oslo Hammerschmidt. What was it? Oswald.
Four special guests.
Oslo Welsh.
Oslo Welsh.
And I am a lunch bucket sort of a critic.
A lunch bucket sort of a critic. All right. There it is, and send your emails. You know what? We didn't get to our Vox box.
Okay, we didn't get to the Vox box because Oslo Welsh.
Yes. We will next week.
I like how planned out the show is.
Well,
we signed off, and now we're going back. It's a delirious narrative structure. It's very sophisticated in that respect. It's kind of a Mickey One sort of a film criticism show.
See, you would think, considering my entire career has been producing television, which is nothing but the ordered chaos of like live TV, writing and producing, ordering, rundowns, right?
Well,
that really, this is the one part of my life where I don't care what happens.
Well, you know what? We're going to be back very soon, so we'll knock another show out over the weekend, and we'll be back with the Vox box then. Well, how about if we do two Vox boxes? No.
Inside joke.